The number one added benefit to any bicycle to increase the aerodynamic efficiency and thus your speed.
Drum roll, please.
Are your wheels. One of the number one questions I get all the time are, what wheels should I use on my race bike? Well, there are a lot of different answers, and here I'm going to help you out. Hi, I am retired professional triathlete TJ Tollickson, CEO of Diamond Bikes, and today we're talking about race wheel selection, and we're going to talk about tubed versus tubeless, hooked versus hookless, and I'm even going to give you some history that dates back to the late 80s. So, the number one wheel choice for a triathlon bike, if I'm racing a triathlon right now and I have a choice of which wheel to put on, I am going to ride a tri-spoke wheel on the front and a full disc wheel on the back. And I know a lot of you are looking at this saying, tri-spoke wheel, what's going on here? Well, the history of the tri-spoke is very interesting. So you can see this is a disc brake tri-spoke that we make here at Red Crown Cycling. It's a cool wheel. But the history of the tri-spoke wheel actually dates back to the late 80s when Mike Sinyard, the CEO of Specialized, met an engineer from DuPont. And that engineer from DuPont was studying aerodynamics, working on Aero projects, and he was also a bike racer. And the two of them met. It was a joint venture between DuPont and Specialized, and they put $1 million.
$1 million.
6 months of research into making the world's first tri-spoke bicycle wheel. That wheel was extremely fast. It weighed about 1,200 grams, which was much more than a 36 spoke wheel that people were using to race with at the time. But the aerodynamics of it were crazy fast, meaning if you compared the standard wheel at the time, it would be at least 4 minutes faster over a 100-mile time trial and as much as 10 minutes faster. That data was wind tunnel tested by DuPont and Specialized. They put a ton into that. And in January of 1990, the tri-spoke wheel was available to common people at local bike shops. You could buy a Specialized tri-spoke wheel. And ever since then, it's been a super fast option, but they were very expensive. At the time they first came out, they were $750. Seems like a bargain in today's world. But they were very expensive. And the weight penalty was a lot for some people to think about in their mind and to overcome. Today we look at 1,200 grams on a tri-spoke wheel and think, wow, that's really great. That's an awesome fast wheel. And it's no different. The biggest difference now is they're easier to manufacture, and the shapes are going to change even more because now that we're not braking on the rim surface, we're braking with center lock disc brakes, the rim shapes are going to change even more, and so these wheels are going to continue to get faster and faster. But the one thing we know is they are still crazy fast. It is the fastest thing to put on your front wheel, outside of a full disc, which is not allowed.
That's illegal.
So a tri-spoke becomes the next fastest thing. And then the rear wheel option is a disc, a full disc in the rear. So a full disc wheel, and this happens to be a rim brake disc wheel, but we make center lock disc brake wheels. These are also crazy fast, and as you can see, the fastest ones, the fastest disc wheels, are ones that have a conical shape. So if you look at the side profile of this, you'll notice that this side is actually bowed out, so it's thicker in the middle and it's thinner here, so it makes the shape of a contact lens. That is the fastest aerodynamic shape for a disc, and you can see the other side is mostly flat. It's not entirely flat though. It does raise a little bit because even a slight raise in your disc will improve the aerodynamics. So you try to maximize the space that you have on the disc, maximize the lens shape. And just like a sail on a sailboat, these discs can actually provide negative drag, meaning they can actually propel a rider forward with the shape of the wheel. So that's a really cool feature of a disc. So if you're going to ask, what is the fastest setup? Tri-spoke front, disc wheel back. That's what you should be racing with. So then what do we have if it's like, well, I want to go fast, but I don't need that kind of extreme thing? Well, the next thing that we recommend somebody use is this 88 millimeter wheel. And as a category, we'll just say 80 plus. We'll say, give or take 80 millimeter wheels. Ours happens to be 88 millimeters. There are some that are 90s. But if you run this with a disc wheel in the back, that gives you kind of your next best option. 88, 80, 78, 84, 90, whatever the depth of the rim is, doesn't matter as much as that it's deep and that the fact that it has spokes, okay? Some nice things about a rim, a carbon rim with spokes, is that you can true your wheel. So if something happens to the wheel, you can actually replace the hub, you can true it. You can also probably replace the hub end caps. So you can go from 12 millimeter through axles to 9 millimeter quick release skewers. Lots of cool things that you can do with a spoked wheel. But if you do break a spoke, it can be repaired. You can replace it and then you can true it. So you always have a wheel that spins very, very straight. If you're racing at the Ironman World Championships in Kona, Hawaii, disc wheels are banned in the rear. And so you'll see the most common setup for Kona would be an 88 in the front and an 88 in the back. Now, for those who are very lightweight or are less competitive, they're riding at slower paces and they're more concerned about the stability and handling. They want to look at something in the 50 to 60 millimeter range. I have one of those wheels right here to show you. This happens to be a rim brake Zip 454. Interesting, it has the kind of wave pattern on here. Zip actually describes this as a humpback whale pattern. But this depth of wheel provides very good aerodynamics, and then it has less side force. And we're talking about side force. We're simply talking if you're riding your bike, how much does the wind blow the side of the wheel and move the bike to the side, right? So the more aerodynamic the wheel, typically the more side force on it as well. So the rear full disc wheel has the most side force on it, which can actually help propel you forward in some instances, but it also has the lowest amount of drag, so it's the fastest wheel. Now, Zip specifically developed this technology. They're in a nasty litigation right now with
Your Honor, I object.
You would!
with Princeton Carbon Works over the patent of a similar designed wheel. But this wheel is designed to act like a deeper wheel. So it's one of the first wheels that was made that increases the aerodynamics, but decreases the side force on it. Cool technology from Zip. They make nice wheels. And then again, some of these proprietary shapes made specifically to reduce the side force on the wheel can also be your friend if that's a concern. Then we see one step further for people who might be riding a gravel or a road bike that they're concerned about weight, but also aerodynamics, and they're also concerned they don't want the twitchy handling on the front, especially a lot of people on gravel. We'll see people pair a 50 or 60 millimeter wheel with a 40 millimeter wheel in the front. And I've got a really cool 40 millimeter rim right here, so you can kind of see the difference in depth. That's what we're looking at. If you can look at those front on, you can see this one is 40 millimeters and this 454 is a little over 50 millimeters deep. So this is a great wheel to have as a front paired with this if you're looking to maximize your aerodynamics. And yet, once we get into gravel and road riding, we will see that our most popular wheel set is actually a set of these 40s. So front and back on these 40s, it provides a really good mixture of aerodynamics and lightweight with really good handling. So for road and gravel wheels, these 40 millimeter hoops are very popular. We have one more wheel right here. That's always a choice for anybody. This one happens to be a rim brake, but they make disc brakes, but it's never a bad thing to start out with a regular aluminum multi-spoked wheel just like this. So this is an aluminum rim. It's obviously heavier than the carbon rims are. It's not as aerodynamic, but it's much more affordable. If you break this thing, if you break spokes on it, very little concern about the cost of this because it's so much easier to replace versus a carbon wheel. So this is always an option. And some people like to train slow and race fast. That's one methodology people use. They train on training wheels, they race on race wheels so that they feel way faster. I started my career racing like that. I ended my career always training on race wheels because I wanted to always feel what the worst conditions were like on the race wheels, so nothing was a surprise on race day. I would change out the wheels. I would race with my gourmet hubs with ceramic bearings, my super fast tires. on race day, so it would still get the speed boost, but overall the effect of the rim depth and type of wheel wouldn't be anything new to me. So that's a great way to segue into this next part of this video. So tubed versus tubeless, which should I be riding right now? Well, I will tell you right now that because of the tire technology, you should be riding tubeless tires. And not every wheel can be converted to be tubeless ready, but most can. And many of them are tubeless ready. All the wheels that we make from Red Crown Cycling are tubeless ready out of the gate. You just need tubeless rim tape on it, a tubeless valve. Then you're ready. You need some sealant and a tubeless tire. So you should be running tubeless tires right now. It is the future of tire technology. And it very much minimizes your risk of having a flat tire. The next thing to talk about is hooked versus hookless. And we can do a whole video on this to get into the specifics, but a hookless rim is one where there is not a hook on the inside of the rim. And so if we look at this disc wheel, this is made, it actually has a hook on the inside here. So there's a little carbon hook that grabs the wheel, that pinches that and keeps that in there. The 40, the inside of this rim is just straight up and down. There is no hook. So you're relying on the tire to actually push out against the sidewalls to hold it in place. And I know this seems scary and crazy. To a lot of people it is. And if you use the wrong tire or the wrong, or mainly too high of pressure, you can blow the tire right off the sidewall. Not every tire works with hookless rims, which is really important to note. You need a specific tire to work with this, and this should be run tubeless. You can put a tube in here, but we only recommend using a tube on one of these hookless rims in an emergency where you have a flat and you need to replace that. So hookless is definitely the future. All of our rims outside of the 40s have hooks on them. And I'm a believer in that because I still believe that people should have the option to run tires that are not hookless ready, meaning that they are a lighter, more supple tire that can have a higher PSI in that. We're seeing a trend to go wider and wider on tires, but it only makes sense so far as the aerodynamics make sense. And for the very, very tippy top, guys that are approaching 30 miles per hour in a race, there's going to be a point where the narrower tires are faster than the wider tires. And so I believe that's an important aspect to have. And I think that some people will also just always prefer the security of having a hook on their rim. But I will tell you, it's going to be the way of the dinosaurs. And in 10 years, I don't think any of these rims are going to have hooks on them. They're all going to be hookless. And that takes some advances from not only the rim shapes and rim aerodynamics, but the tire company as well, to make a tire that's super fast, rolls fast, and is aerodynamic and matches the profile of rims. So there you have it. This is what I use, the information I use to help determine which wheels I should use to race with. And the same thing I would help any customer at Diamond Bikes to decide which wheels they should use for a race or purchase with a bike.
Thank you very much.